So to continue with some of Lama's phrases. So the first sentence he said was share your love, your wisdom, and your wealth, and serve other beings as much as possible. Okay? So I explained the first part yesterday, and now we're on the and serve other beings as much as possible. So that was something that Lama emphasized a lot. And you'll remember Venerable Wu Yin during the Vinaya course, she emphasized that a lot too. You know, that part of the Sangha's role is not just to keep our precepts, to study, to meditate, to preserve the Dharma and pass it down to future generations, but also to serve sentient beings. And so, of course, one way to serve sentient beings is by learning the teachings and practicing them and passing them down. But she really emphasized, and Lama did too, just in our daily life behavior, our daily life conduct, to serve the people that we come in contact with. And also, because Lama set up this whole network of centers, his whole idea was for centers to serve the public by making the Dharma available to all sorts of people who normally wouldn't have come in contact with it. For example, most of us. Okay? And so most of us came in contact with the Dharma because somebody had the mind of serving sentient beings and, put the information out there in some public way or another so that we came across it and we happened to encounter the Buddha's precious teachings. And then having encountered them, we were able to go to centers or now monasteries or wherever and hear the teachings. And so that's another way really of serving sentient beings. And Lama really hammered that into us, I've got to say, again and again, and talking about the benefits of having places where people can meet the Dharma and the benefits of making the teachings available. And when I went to Singapore, when I lived there in 87 and 88, one thing I was that really warmed my heart was they have a tradition in Southeast Asia of making Dharma books available for free distribution. Yeah, and so people would see it as a meritorious act, which it is, and donate funds, and then all sorts of short Dharma books, not usually the long ones, but the short ones, would be printed for free distribution and then passed out at temples. And I've talked to many people who have encountered the Dharma, because they went to Pokarsi Monastery in Singapore, and they happened to pick up a little booklet, working with anger. They have ones from Theravada teachers and General Mahayana and Tibetan teachers, and they have things in Chinese and in English. And so it's really very, very nice and really makes serves the public. I think the prison work we do is very much involved with serving sentient beings. Yeah, because talk about a group of people who would never have the opportunity to meet the Dharma and who need it so much, and so making the Dharma available to them is really quite wonderful. And, some of you have heard my little story, how Lama hammered this into me in particular about serving sentient beings, because each year at Kopan, he and Rinpoche would teach a course, and then there would be one Western student who would lead the meditations and so on. And so I received word one time that I was a baby nun, I had just been ordained, that I was going to be the Western, assistant for the next course. And I just froze and I thought, you know, I'm a baby nun. What's these expect? You know, what can I do? And so I went to see Rinpoche. I had an appointment with him. He said, "Oh, you go ask Lama." So, so I went to ask. You know, I said, "Lama, you know, I can't do this. I don't know anything." And that's when he looked at me. I mean, Lama, when he went like this, you stood up straight. And he looked at me and he said, "You're selfish." So there you have it. You know, your teacher calls you out. And, you know, and this was, you know, his message that whatever you do know, whatever you can give, whatever you're capable of doing, you do that, you know, and don't just sit there with, I can't, you know, when there's sentient beings who need your help. So it could be, you know, in terms of sharing the Dharma, it could be in terms of sharing your skills to do one thing or another, but very much this idea of serving sentient beings. And I read recently about a woman who had just gotten a new battery on her 360-pound electric wheelchair. And the wheelchair kind of, the battery, the new battery, you know, just went psst, and her wheelchair shot suddenly and she fell off. And she was right by a church and a shopping center. The only person who stopped to help her was one person who helped her get back in the chair after she had fallen out. And then she was sitting there by the roadside, not knowing what to do because the chair wasn't moving. And this one kid came along, an African American kid, and said, you know, kind of what's happening, and, you know, got the story and said, "Well, I'll wheel you all the way home." And she was a little bit like, "Well, he might wheel halfway and then he'll get tired and then I'll be really stuck." But she said, you know, he seemed sincere. So it was a half an hour walk and the wheels in the wheelchair were stuck, but he pushed her anyway, 360 pounds plus her, you know, and pushed her home. And, you know, and then just kind of left, made sure she was okay and left. And one of his friends had seen him do that and recorded and made a video of it and put it on Facebook or one of those things. Anyway, a lot of people saw it. He didn't know her, she didn't know him, but friends who saw the video knew her and connected her with him, and then she took him to church. and the people in the church gave him a plaque and really praised him for, you know, just for serving sentient beings, you know, just helping the person who's in front of your nose with what they need help with. Okay, so, you know, we can do it in big ways, we can do it in small ways, but the idea is to have our eyes open, you know, to the experience of others and do what we can to be of service.